Welcome to Tech Leader 360.
We were able to convince Bill Gates.
Effective leaders understand the weight of what their leadership is, but they don't recognize it in themselves.
In my experience, stories change culture.
If you are a software engineer or a data scientist or a solution architect or any IT professional, this is for you. First of all, thank you, John, for coming to our podcast. It is a great honor for us to interview today in person at my Tech Leader 360 podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure to join you guys. Really good opportunity to
Awesome.
talk through life experiences.
I'm also equally excited about this podcast because of that. I wanted to learn the first-hand information about how the trucking industry is transforming, especially in electrifying and also autonomous vehicles. And apart from that, my audience also wanted to understand how a mechanical engineer ascended his career to all the way down to chief technology officer at the largest trucking manufacturing company, PACCAR. Right now, the market share of PACCAR is almost like a $63 billion market cap so far. And
most valuable trucking company
most valuable
in the world.
This is super exciting. I'm super excited to invite you into our podcast. So before we go deep dive into this podcast, John, I wanted to understand some of your childhood background. If you can share about childhood background, that will be fantastic.
My personal or professional?
Childhood background.
Childhood background. I actually grew up in a military family, in the U.S. Air Force family.
Mm-hmm.
So most of that was in the state of New Mexico because the Air Force owns the state of New Mexico between missile ranges, laboratories. And my father was a military scientist, a physicist working on laser weaponry and nuclear weapons and other aspects that are done in New Mexico. But it also involved moving to a lot of different military bases around the country, including Ohio and Alabama. I was born at Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland. So my childhood was really dominated by the U.S. Air Force and growing up on a military base.
Wow.
Halfway through high school, my father got out of the military and we moved to the New York City area. So I actually finished high school in the state of Connecticut, right outside of New York City, and went on to college from there.
So you went to undergrad at...
I went to Boston University undergraduate, and I did a master's at Michigan, and then went on to do an MBA at Harvard.
Yes, exactly. So right after your mechanical engineering, so what made you to join at Ford as a mechanical engineer? And I have another question to ask you is that, have you ever envisioned that you would become a CEO of a large enterprise?
I'm not sure. I spent a lot of time envisioning what my late career would be. As I went to Ford, I actually, I didn't really want to live in Michigan, but I really liked cars. It was something I had done even before I was able to drive. I started rebuilding cars and car engines. I had the opportunity to join Ford in their engine division, and I just couldn't not do it. It was just something I wasn't going to pass up. I wanted to make cars all my life, and that was it wasn't exactly where I wanted to live, but I really couldn't pass up the opportunity to go do that. And starting in as a young engineer, I guess I probably had the vision of work for a couple of years and go get an MBA and do something different, and the world is going to fall at my feet. Didn't think it much further than that. I started to enjoy the different things I was doing, and the opportunities at the time at Ford were actually very good. And I kept delaying leaving and going to get an MBA.
Oh, I see.
I kept delaying it a year, then I had the chance to go to Japan, and delayed it by another year. It was supposed to be a year in Japan, and then I had a chance to go down to Mazda and work on a truck, do a diesel engine with Mazda for a truck in Southeast Asia. And before I knew it, it was like 7 years in. I reached a point, if I didn't go back to business school, I was never going to go back to business school. So I kind of reluctantly went back to business school because it was something I wanted to do. It was an aspiration, just from an education standpoint. But I was really enjoying being an engineer, and I was really enjoying living in Japan at the time. And So I applied and I got into several places and I said, all right, I have to go. So I moved home and went to school.
Fantastic. So what do you feel working? Did you gain anything out of HBS MBA or?
It's funny. You go back into corporate America and into an engineering world. I didn't try to transition. I spent a little time in finance and realized that there's a lot of finance that's really not that much fun, especially at lower levels. And I went back into a design and release engineering role, again developing powertrains, developing engines, and I didn't always feel like I was using all of your skills that you develop in school. Especially if you've gone through as much schooling as I did, I felt like maybe I wasn't doing everything. But then over time in different jobs, you find ways to deploy it. I had gone through, then I spent another, coming back from business school, I spent another 10 years in powertrain. Went through a financial crisis, went through restructuring a company. Really, the Ford team went through a lot. We didn't go through bankruptcy, but we went through a lot of hard times to avoid bankruptcy. We laid off half the company, we half the development team of the company, and really had to rebuild, pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. And that was, in hindsight, a great experience. I didn't always feel like it, but it was as much of a painful experience. It was a great experience having to reset everything that you're doing, having to get more efficient, having to get just better at what you do. It did require that you use a lot of the skills that you study in school, but you just didn't realize it at the time that you were doing it real time.
So basically, you have your core passion your passion is all about the technology, engineering, and
I love vehicles.
Vehicles.
I've always loved trucks.
So at the core, you are not a business guy. So
at my core, as you grow up, as you take on bigger jobs in a company, you become a business guy, right? At my core, your product is everything. And, the opportunity to work in product, I just never want to be far from product.
So at Ford, you have taken the responsibility of strategy, and you also took the responsibility of CIO.
Yeah.
What were the major accomplishments that you have achieved during the 3 decades that you have been there at Ford?
One of the things, actually, again, the financial crisis and coming through that, the company was in a lot of trouble.
During 2002.
During 2000, it really started to have troubles about 2002, 2003. And by the time we hit the financial crisis, we had some major quality issues, major market share losses, and the world was in financial turmoil. And that's where you find leadership, right? And the team of people we worked with at that time, really fantastic people, and committed to one goal of resetting the company and getting through and avoiding bankruptcy. Our focus at the time, we had a new CEO who was actually a former Boeing guy, a local guy named Alan Mullally.
Yeah, right.
And Alan was just an incredible leader, and really focused the team on cutting through the BS, getting lean, getting better at what you do, and delivering your end of business and supporting your fellow team member, right? Being committed to the success of everybody you work with every day. And it was, to me, that was one of the greatest experiences of my career, even though, like I said, we laid off half the product development team, which is a horrible thing to go through. At the same time, we learned to deliver and we learned to get better. To me, that's a very formative experience.
So to just pause here so when you're laying off a lot of employees one side, and there are the existing employees that you need to build a motivation within an employee. So as a leader, what kind of a culture that you're inculcating inside the organization? Because one side you have to let go, one side you have to keep the employees. So
I'll tell you, going through that experience, it was, you can imagine it doesn't happen in one phase, right? We actually went through 6 rounds of reductions. And the early rounds really were not that painful because companies get fat and you have people that aren't delivering their end of the business. And that actually, you pick up speed when you start getting rid of your baggage. I don't want to describe a human as a baggage, but there are people who aren't delivering their end to the team, a team's effort. surprisingly, it's not that bad, the early phases of something like that. We got through, I'll say, the first 3 rounds, and it became the most horrible experience of your life because you're letting people that you work with depend on, and you're really trying to get through something like the financial crisis was so severe, and everybody is working to survive and make again, when you get to the point where you're committed to the success of your fellow teammate every morning, to turn around and have a reduction at that point is awful, and it's actually worse for the people who have to administer it than the people on the receiving end of it.
I still remember during that time, the U.S. government bailed out this Ford.
The U.S. government bailed out General Motors in bankruptcy, and they bailed out Chrysler, and we did not take government money. We did not take a government bailout, and we did not go through bankruptcy, and we were determined that we were going to do everything possible not to do that. Again, this was a lot of Alan's leadership of his. I think he said at one point, we'll sell the furniture before we'll take a penny from the government. And it became a motivating element for the company. And at the same time, we had to lean the business out dramatically. You also realize that lean companies work a lot better, that you can actually get leaner and your quality can improve.
But how do you build a trust when you are building a lean teams, for example? Because when on side, if you are building a lean team, people...
To me, it was really interesting. The first 3 rounds weren't so horrible because you did have some dead weight, but you get down to the people who are really contributing, and it was pretty fascinating because we were all working so hard together to try, and we had a common vision of we're not going to go through bankruptcy. We're going to pull this company through this. We're going to, and we had products to deliver. We had things to improve. We had production to run. We had, we had a very clear and compelling vision at the time. And people were bought into that, and people actually understood that as the business, if it worsened, we were going to have to thin out, and we don't want to, but we're going to have to. You had to make hard decisions, though, and people actually understood that. As horrible as that sounds, it was very well understood by the team that had to go through it, and it was not personal. Again, the first rounds were personal. The latter rounds were again aligned around a vision and painful, but not personal.
That's really painful during that time. I'm sure it must have been a lot of pressure at the time.
Well, but you learn a lot about leadership through that too. And again, I keep citing, Alan was the CEO who distilled that vision. So again, leadership's about hard decisions. Leadership's about vision, and leadership's about applying energy to a problem.
Fantastic. So during the Ford, you were there as a AV line head. So autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
So can you give us some light on autonomous vehicles from a Ford's vision aspect of it at that time?
2 rounds of DARPA challenges for self-driving vehicles, and the Google Project X was born out of that, which became Waymo, and that started almost a feeding frenzy in the industry of, oh my God, disruption is about to happen, and there was a belief that all the car companies were worried that they were going to be disintermediated by a technology company, and all the margins were going to flow to a technology company that could deliver self-driving vehicles, and almost a paranoia. What we did at the time is there was actually leading car AV projects at the time were Google Project X and the Uber effort out of Carnegie Mellon. Those 2 efforts actually had a fair bit of turmoil as well. They had some of their leaders depart, and we were able to capitalize a couple key leaders from those 2 projects with $1 billion check to go stand up a technology company, a self-driving car technology company. It had to be separate from OEM at the time. The incentive structures, the talent pool, everything was different about these companies. But we very quickly constituted a company called Argo, and I was responsible for building cars to support Argo. Had a great set of technology leaders, and I learned a lot about how fast a technology company can move when motivated. And these guys at the Argo team, again, great group of people making fast decisions and moving the needle on self-driving very quickly to try to, at the time, catch up with what had become Waymo.
So since you have already, the Ford had a already clear vision to build these autonomous vehicles, which year was this actually? Because the Tesla actually now the dominant in this player. So where did Ford miss this journey?
Well, for self-driving, I mean, I wouldn't consider Tesla the dominant player. I'd consider Tesla the dominant player in level 2 self-driving, but not a full self-driving. I don't think they're anywhere. But again, I think the fear of Google moving into the space was the motivator to capitalize a lot of projects. And also, General Motors capitalized Cruise. They bought a fledgling entity called Cruise and capitalized that in a similar manner.
I see. So basically, you had a clear vision of way ahead.
Well, I'm not sure it was a clear vision. Certainly, the auto companies didn't have a clear vision. There was a massive fear of being disintermediated and having basically the technology world steal the margins and leave. The term at the time was, we don't want to be the Nokia handset of cars, right? You don't want to be left with just making the hardware while a tech company basically controls the customer and takes the margin in the business. And that was the paranoia that freed up billions of dollars to go fund these things.
I see.
And it happened around the world. I mean, if you look at the amount of money that was thrown at autonomous driving at the time, well north of $100 billion over a few years. And most of it went nowhere.
Oh, wow.
But we I'd say the early phases of that, we had a clear vision of catch up with Waymo.
I see.
And build out a business that had the capabilities to remove a driver.
So now you are served in Ford as a CIO, almost like the 30 years you've been there in the Ford, and you're, from a career point of view, you are at a pinnacle. And
I mean, sometimes you have to take stock and decide it's time to do something different. And this was a good moment for me, both personally and professionally. PACCAR had a lot of needs that I had background for, from advanced engines, and there's still a lot of internal combustion in front of us, and it is very high tech. Actually, people don't realize how hard it is to emissionize to the upcoming standards of diesel engines, and they still have a long way in front of them. But also a transition to electrification and dealing with subjects like autonomy and working through that in a profitable manner. And the mandate, PACCAR is a very disciplined company about deployment of capital and capital allocation, and very rational company. The thing I really enjoyed about the company when I met them is they weren't afraid. They knew their customer. They weren't afraid of technology transitions. The leadership from the Piggott family to the senior leaders of the company absolutely knew their customer, knew that they were a leader in the industry, knew that they could stay at the forefront, and didn't have to throw crazy money at technologies to be a player in them. And that really enticed me to come.
wow. So what is your core vision for technology and innovation, and how PACCAR is aligning to your long-term vision?
And I'll say it very simply, because I came out of an auto industry that was operating with fear and angst about technology transitions and constant fear of being disintermediated.
I see.
And the mandate I have at PACCAR is to manage carefully and methodically through a technology transition and make money. And I like those combination. We know our customer. We have a market share. We have our place on the landscape. We're moving this forward, and we're going to stay at the forefront of this. But we're not going to throw silly money at things, with the hope of playing everywhere. We're not trying to pick winners early. Stay in a variety of technologies until it's clear that it's the point to invest. We're investing right now very heavily in batteries, a certain technology path in batteries that is compelling for commercial vehicles. But we didn't get caught up early in fact, many of our competitors threw a lot of money at different battery technologies early and wed themselves to technology paths that they ended up scuttling later. And we took our time, picked our path, and invested once. And that's what we're in the process of doing. And now really focused on the fundamental drivers of that business of securing our supply, picking the right technology, and tailoring it as a competitive advantage to the needs of the industry. And again, owning our cost structure.
Wow. So now, as a technology leader at PACCAR, as you rightly said, the PACCAR is a forefront of electrification as well as the autonomous vehicles, right? So what are the strategies the PACCAR is planning to establish in the long term?
Well, I'd say, first of all, we don't pretend to know all of the future. We know, again, we know our space, we know the physics of our industry. We don't know how all of technology, humans are horrible at picking winners in technology. The adoption curves prove that, right? Our philosophy is to take a step back from that and not pick winners early, but play in a lot of spaces, work with partners, de-risk ourselves appropriately for the unknown, but don't make big bets early because you'll lose.
I see.
But participate, work with others as a good partner, and invest decisively when it's the right moment.
So basically, learn first and then.
I'd say measure twice, cut once.
Oh,
right?
measure twice, cut once. Measure twice, cut once. This is a fantastic.
And that's different. If you ask some Microsoft guys about their technology strategy, they'll say we can't afford to miss out if you wait until you know it's too late. Our industry is a little different in that you can't wait on everything. You have to participate. You have to play, but you'll learn a lot through the early phases. And again, we're so capital intensive, and our development cycles are long because of regulatory cycles and the functional safety requirements. Our development cycles are long, so we can't just go and bet early on everything.
So in this space, especially in trucking industry, as a CTO of a PACCAR, so what are the opportunities and what are the challenges that you're looking forward?
Well, one, decarbonization is again coming out of the auto industry. It was if you asked him, it was the great challenge and fear. We view it very differently. We view it as a great opportunity. We don't know how it's all going to play out, but we know that we will methodically and systemically decarbonize over a period of time. And that's going to take the form of battery electrification. It may take the form of fuel cells in certain applications. And it may take interim steps, hybridization along the way. We don't know exactly how all those play out, but they're going to be a lot of fun to engage through that process. And as certain technology paths firm up, committing and going is great. But my great challenge and what I, again, look forward to is getting through this and making money. We're a unique company. We are in our 85th year of continuous profitability.
It is 1905 established, right?
We established in 1905, and we've been profitable since 1939. No company in the global automotive space is even close to that. Toyota doesn't have that record. We have an incredible record of profitability and stability, and again, hitting our numbers. And I love the challenge of managing through. The companies worked through technology curves in the past, right? And regulatory changes and other things. And they've done it. They've managed to navigate those changes profitably. And I look at this as my challenge and my contribution to the company to get through what I think is probably the biggest of all technology changes in the company's history, and get through it profitably and to grow share through it. I think it's a great opportunity for a company like PACCAR to grow through it by navigating and managing the transition of that technology effectively.
Yeah, so when I saw the website of the PACCAR, so many products that have been acquired. So can you talk about a little bit on the mergers and acquisitions that PACCAR did go through it, and what is the major strategy behind this M&A deals?
Yeah. First of all, we're blessed to have a founding family still involved with business that has been remarkably consistent through time. And the company has evolved over time through acquisition. It was originally a rail car company.
Rail
right?
car company, yeah.
It acquired its first truck brand in 1924. Post-war, I believe just after World War II. Kenworth was started in 1924 and acquired by the company in the 40s. And then they acquired Peterbilt in 1957. And then in the 90s, they acquired DAF in Europe. Methodical acquisitions, they were going with what they knew, building things that clearly had accretive value and sewing them together. And also during that time, starting up, supporting businesses and tangential businesses such as the parts business is actually parts and services, an incredible business for the company. And that's been built organically around acquisitions over a long period of time. The company does not get deal fever on buying things.
Wow.
It's very, very responsible how it handles its profits. It returns profits reliably to shareholders. But at the same time, it does look for good opportunities to move forward and, again, deploy the assets of the business productively towards new opportunities. But it's extremely careful. It does not take steps back.
Wow.
And that's fairly unique, right? Very few companies that have been around this long have the track record of consistency of the company. But it's careful.
Wow, that's super inspiring to hear, John. And also, our audience also wanted to ask a few questions about the autonomous vehicles, because most of the people are fully aware of Tesla, self-driving, and all the stuff. So today, where is PACCAR standing in terms of building autonomous vehicles, and how does it compare to traditional consumer-oriented companies like Tesla, Lucid, and all that stuff? So can you please talk about in this space?
Yeah, first of all, just start with defining autonomy. There's various levels of autonomy. And there's level 2 and enhanced level 2, which is really driver assist technologies.
Which is what the Tesla.
Yeah, which is what Tesla has, which is what the GM, lose my mind with their brand name, the Ford Blue Cruise, a variety of options are out there now, and they're pretty good, right? But they are not remove the driver from the situation.
You still keep the hands on.
Yeah, and I sort of like the feature because I can, I can eat a burrito and drive. But it's not removing the driver from the vehicle. It's really a neat feature, a novelty, not a novelty, but it's in cars. It doesn't economically transform anything. When you remove a driver from a vehicle, suddenly you're talking about a different economic equation.
Okay.
Now, the only company really doing that is Waymo. They're doing that in a limited manner. They're trying to learn how to scale that. They're doing it very well and responsibly, as nearly as I can tell. Cruise automation had a few problems. And
like last 2 months back.
Yeah, a couple months back, and they've suffered a major setback. And it's not clear where that project will end up. First of all, let me finish on level 2. As you apply that to trucks, my personal philosophy is those tools are great if they are clearly enhancing road safety and driver situational awareness. But I'm not sure I want a partial self-drive on a truck yet. And we're very, very cautious about how we deploy them. So the tools and features that are demonstrably better for safety, we're embracing. We're not ready to embrace things that take over control of the truck, that take a driver out and their awareness down yet. We have a long way to go on those. Now, when you talk about level 4, which is the ability to remove a driver from the scene, when you get into trucks, that is the economic equation is pretty compelling because truck drivers turn out to be very expensive. And there's a labor shortage. There's a massive labor shortage of truck drivers. So there's a compelling reason to do this. But again, when you're talking about 40 tons of vehicle, you have to get this to the point that it's much, much safer than a human driver. And again, demonstrably safer than the human drivers that are out there today. So we're participating in this. We're partnered with a company called Aurora. They're, again, kind of a pure play on the trucking automation. We are the digital truck underneath, cyber secure and fully redundant platforms that support their effort, but we're not the digital driver. So we draw a very clear line between those. And we're, again, working to develop an absolutely bulletproof digital truck platform that autonomous companies like Aurora can use responsibly to remove a driver eventually from the environment. But it is a very, very difficult AI challenge. And, the companies like Aurora and Waymo employ the smartest people on earth, right? These are a great group of roboticists, and it is a really tough problem to solve.
So, in how many years this is going to be solved?
Well, the underlying technologies are there. If you look at the advancements that have taken place from 2015, 16, where LiDARs and radars, sensory, and frankly, the compute horsepower didn't exist, to companies like NVIDIA, a variety of LiDAR advancements have taken place. LiDAR is really, from where it was to where it is today is pretty incredible sensor. The underlying technology that enable this are now present. Now it is working through the engineering challenge, and again, making sure that all situations are covered. You just cannot put something on the road that isn't much better than the human being, and we're not there yet. And that's the challenge, to not only execute that, but to prove it to society and make society comfortable with it. Both legislators and society, they need to be comfortable with what goes on the road.
Yeah, since when you said lots of compliances, legislatures, all these issues are coming up. So, as a leader, what kind of a challenges that you are seeing every day in, day out activities?
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the key attributes of being a leader in a corporate environment is you have to make decisions on what you will and won't do. You most critically, you have to be willing to say no, and you have to apply judgment and say no. And sometimes you have to say no, or let's go slower. And you have to say no on resources as well. Resources, no matter who you are, even some of the great companies we have in Seattle that are that have been incredibly successful in the tech space, they don't have all the resources they'd like to. They have to make critical decisions on resources. So one of those compelling things is again, judgment and willingness to say no, and making critical decisions on resource deployments. And the other is just the vision of when and how you'll move forward, and cutting through the ambiguity, and making a call on, we're going to do this now.
I see. And from a sustainability and environment, as well as the supply chain aspect of it, how the AI is helping trucking companies like PACCAR?
Yeah, 3 years ago when I took this job, if you'd asked me the AI question, I would have told you, boy, autonomy is number one. What's happened in the last 2 years with natural language models and ability to bring structured to unstructured data is absolutely mind-boggling.
Right.
And a lot of the things you just couldn't do before. My favorite application is prognostics, and just being able to dig into the quality data that's around you, and the experiential data that's around you that was impossible to sort through and make sense of. AI is an incredible tool. So my favorite application now, and one that I'm watching us make real strides, like astonishing strides daily, is prognostics, and being able to predict failures and before they happen in a way that we just couldn't do before. And being able to put those tools in the hands of engineers, what's happened with the chat and other tools is more people have access to tools, and more people are figuring out smart things to do with those tools. So the speed with which this is moving is a wow. And we're going to watch more and more pragmatic applications of these of AI tools. And I don't even want to predict what they are yet, because I couldn't. 2 years ago, I would have had a completely different answer than I have today. But the prognostics is my favorite, right? Predicting a failure before it happens is the coolest thing on earth. Calling a customer and saying, "Hey, I want you to come in, and I need 4 extra hours at your oil change. And I'm going to do something before it happens," is a wow.
Because these autonomous vehicles are producing a lot of ton amount of data, you said the unstructured data and converting to structured data. So as a leader in an organization, how do you see the technologies are there to get the right insights that are being generated by these trucks?
We're going to watch this space evolve, right? But this is a lot like my comment on technologies earlier. I don't want to predict the future. I want to be participating and able to move with them as they evolve, and pick the right places to go as they become more as the capabilities improve. Again, humans are horrible at predicting at futuring technologies, but we're not horrible at adapting to them and going with them as they mature and finding the next creative thing. So I actually think 2 years from now we'll be having a very different discussion on, wow, look at this, what we did with this. But the AI technologies will hit us in more ways and more parts of our business than we ever thought of or were thinking of today.
I see. So now let me shift a question to as a global leader, your role is to build latest and greatest technologies, both the technology innovation as well as the product development. So how do you see a global strategy and apply to local strategy? Because PACCAR is everywhere.
Yeah, we play in major markets around the world selectively. We play very consciously where, frankly, the better markets are, and we consciously don't play in markets that are particularly challenged. But historically, the industry's been all over the place with technology and requirements, and every pocket of a market has a different requirement. There is actually a lot of convergence around just due to decarbonization. So the mature markets have pushed forward into aggressive decarbonization efforts that are probably more aggressive than physics will allow right now, but they need to be aggressive to get things moving. And there's actually a lot of convergence around those technologies, which is nice. The things that you're working on for the United States will also apply to Europe, and they will apply in emerging markets because air quality is turning out to be a concern everywhere.
Zero emissions.
So zero emissions technologies really are watching a convergence around the world, and getting practical and pragmatic solutions turn out to be pretty common.
I see. So now you are being part of PACCAR for almost like more than 3 years now.
Just past 3 years there.
Past 3 years. What is your aspirations at PACCAR, given the roadmap that has been?
Really my goal in coming here is the same today as it was 3 years ago. Is that to successfully manage through what is the greatest technology transition since the dawn of the industry, without a lot of hype, without a lot of emotion, to work methodically through it and to make money at every step through that process. I love the intersection of technology and economics. And to me, that challenge is exactly the same as day one coming here several years ago. And again, that's why I love the company, because it is so pragmatic and methodical and focused on no excuses. We're going to work through this without fear, without delay. We know our space, and we're going to be a leader in the space. And that is exactly the same as the day I joined.
Good to hear all these things, John. So you joined as a mechanical engineer at Ford, and you became chief technology officer at PACCAR, which is a $63 billion market cap.
Yeah, when I joined, we were only 30, and I take full credit for that.
Yeah, good. So what would you give an advice to aspiring technology leaders who want to become a great leader?
Look, I would tell you that I'm really horrible at playing ladder climbing efforts and always have been. Through my career at Ford, I did exactly the opposite of what any mentor told me to do, which was probably not the greatest advice ever, but it did give me a lot of experiences. And I went and worked in strange places overseas when it was not the right career move. I turned down promotions to do something different. And I always kind of looked for a little bit of a left turn to try to learn something new and do something different. And so that's kind of my philosophy, not always to do opposite of what you're instructed to do, but rather to try to do something where you're always learning and moving. Always work in an area where you have energy, right? Leaders bring energy to a problem. They bring energy to finding solutions. And you can't do that unless you're passionate about something. and truly curious and interested. And if you're not curious, if you're not interested, don't do it.
Mhm.
And don't follow the road that is like what the person did in front of you
Mhm.
and think that there's a formula to success. Do what's interesting, do what's meaningful to you, and again, bring energy to it. Try to bring as much energy to that, solving that problem as you can. We're all technology people. We're all, whether it's old school diesel technology or AI, engineers do one thing: they solve problems.
Mhm.
Find the problems that are fun to solve, and be that person that can bring clarity where there's ambiguity.
Wow. So thank you very much, John, for sharing this, having a clarity of this, you're having this kind of a philosophy. And I want to ask another question: is there anything that you wanted to share on a personal note to our community, especially anything that you can, maybe a leadership side, maybe a personal side that you wanted to add anything?
First thing I'd share is that lives and careers are balances of not only a career and technology and things that are interesting, but also family.
Mhm.
I have 5 kids, so I'm very blessed to have
Yeah.
a supportive family, and I probably couldn't do much without my wife. And if you don't realize the people around you who are really important to you and really keep you able to do other things and whole, you will regret it. So never forget the really important things around you. That may sound obvious and seem obvious, but a lot of people lose sight of that. And the other thing is, you will find people in your career who are really important to you to learn from,
Mhm.
and you cherish those people. I'm
Do you have any few people that you wanted to
look at PACCAR. I'm blessed with people around me who are really focused on loving the business and bringing different sides of the business and not being overly political, and I cherish that. I'm blessed with a CEO who is again just down to earth and focused on the business and has been very supportive. The Piggott family, Mark Piggott at PACCAR,
Mhm.
he's the most sane and rational actor I've ever met,
Wow.
and in terms of just understanding the business and understanding how to react to new situations, even if they're even if as a chairman role, kind of taking a step back from it and knowing when to react, when not to overreact, when to say no, and to learn from that has been awesome. Again, to learn from Preston Veit, our CEO, who is again a very rational, methodical actor.
Mhm.
I feel very blessed to have those guys around me and to be able to bounce ideas off of them and to be able to think with them. But also the team of people in our C-suite at PACCAR,
Mhm.
completely non-political, completely focused on every day coming in and being committed to the people around them, and being committed to moving the business forward with the people that they're in the room with, and not their self-serving immediate interest.
Wow. So thank you very much, John. And how do you see the shift from Michigan to all the way down to Washington? How do you like Seattle?
Washington is the greatest place. I've lived all over the world, so I've lived in. I grew up on military bases around the country. I've lived in Detroit. I've lived in Canada. I've lived in New York City. I've lived in Boston. I've lived in Hiroshima. I've lived in Tokyo. I've lived in Shanghai, and I feel like I've lived in Chongqing, China. I was there so many days a week, and a few other places along the way. Washington is the best place I have ever lived on earth.
Wow.
It is a great combination of people, the abundance of resources, the riches of natural phenomena around us are almost embarrassing. I wake up every morning and I'm thankful to live in Washington State.
So it's a pleasure.
In sincerity, I say that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you, John. So thank you very much for coming to our podcast and giving your fantastic transformative leadership experience. And our audience truly love this wisdom. So thank you, John, for coming to our podcast.
Oh, great to talk to you guys.